Here come the Guardians.
Yeah, I have statistics to back up that we have people that listen.
Mike Schaefer.
Anytime there's sort of a debate as to who can do something, Happer would always put his name forth, for sure.
Husker 24/7 on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
I could be a star.
And we're joined now on the 42 Degrees of Source hotline by Mike Schaefer of Husker 247. Hello, Mike. Happy Monday morning to you.
Happy Monday to you, Connor Happer. 3 days of conversation in a row. How does that feel?
I know. Now all we have to do is bring up the cookies again, the cold cookies.
Yeah, nobody really commented on that.
Sad.
Which makes me wonder if they are just visualizing these cookies, or I might have to tweet out a photo so people can see just how good they are.
Josh, what do you think about the idea of not room temperature cookies, but like refrigerated, like feels like they just came out of the refrigerator, but not frozen cookies?
Is the cookie hard?
The cookie is not hard. It's somehow not hard, but it is cold.
I would enjoy that.
I would say it's not cold. Is maybe a little like it's cool. Is there a word for
chilled
that we can use? Chilled is perfect. There we go.
I'm on board with this.
They're chilled cookies. That's a good way to put it.
It's almost like a frosted mug, but a cookie.
This now makes me wonder if we should leave our respective jobs and start a cookie company that's just chilled cookies.
I know. Everybody's
Right
going
on.
to the warm cookie. Why
Right.
not go to the chilled cookie? We zag a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's potential there.
I don't think we get any
Look into
business probably, but I don't know.
Do
Maybe
you
we,
know how to bake good cookies? 'Cause
No.
I don't.
No. I only know one guy who could bake cookies.
Oh, well. talk to that
Well, yeah. Yeah,
I know
well,
that guy.
yeah, we know that guy.
We're all on the same page here.
All right, let's talk some football. So the focal point of our conversation yesterday on your Sunday side session on 24/7 Sports, which you can go check out at Husker 247, was the defense, and that was the first point of the first half hour of this show as well. Have we been able to sort of like contextualize how good this defense actually is? Because what I've received back in the first hour of this show has been like, hey, do we need to like pump the brakes here a little bit? I'm like, no, we have a lot of evidence now that Nebraska's defense is legit.
Yeah, I don't know that we're quite capable of contextualizing it, because it forces people to kind of make a leap of faith, right? Like they have to accept that Nebraska is great on defense, and it's probably hard for some people to get there because you can still go back in your head to Colorado last year or to Michigan, as well. And so outside of those two games, Nebraska is really good defensively, but then you kind of get into the context of that and the offenses that they go against. Here's the thing. They're not going to face many good offenses this year. In fact, it's quite possible that they only face two good offenses, and we don't really know at this point what Ohio State is because they haven't played anyone really at all. And then
USC?
I don't know how, like, what is the upside of USC's offense? They went against an LSU defense that gave up yards to everybody in 2023, and points for that matter. And they didn't score that much. So maybe USC just has an above average offense instead of its usual high flying offense, or maybe it's part of a structural change that Lincoln Riley is going for, where he less exposes his defense. I don't know. That remains to be seen. So it's one of those things where I don't think you're in danger of Nebraska's defense being exposed by any of the teams on their schedule. If anything, you're probably going to end up talking yourself more into it after they go against the Illinois and teams of that nature, Wisconsin, UCLA. Like, which of those teams, Iowa, which of those four teams concern you from an offensive standpoint? I don't know what to make about Indiana and Rutgers. They haven't really played anyone.
Yeah.
They've played even worse teams than everybody else on the schedule. But there's not a lot of offensive skill players or offensive overall on Nebraska's schedule that I'm particularly concerned about outside of Ohio State and USC, and both of those games are on the road. That also makes the difference too.
Yeah, and people also like. I don't know why people are like, oh well, it's UTEP in Colorado. No, we have an entire almost season of this. I mean, Nebraska's defense was just about this good at the end of last year as well, or throughout the majority of last year. I guess post Michigan last year, but I don't get it. For some reason, people don't still want to buy it, and I couldn't be more confused with that, Schaefer, because like Rule can say it until he's blue in the face. And people are still like, yeah, well, okay, let's see it against somebody good. But to your point, I don't when's that coming along? Nebraska's defense is just good, point blank, period.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. I'm just spitballing here. Is it possible because there isn't a true face to Nebraska's defense that people have a hard time accepting it? That, normally you could go back to 2011 and you'd be like, all right, that's Levante David or Jared Crick or Prince Amukamara. Or 2009, you clearly have Sue. Is it something as simple as that? I said 2011. I was talking 2010 there with those first three. But is it that you just don't have like that unequivocal stud on defense that makes everybody rally around it? Because just as a whole, like where are you even poking holes in the idea that they don't have a good defense? They're good on every level. John Bullock and Mekhi Bayer are very, very good players. The only place that I would have some wonder is opposite of Tommy Hill. I don't know like what the high end of Marquise Buford as a corner there is. And even then you have Bly Hill and perhaps Sierra Wright challenging too. So I guess for me, part of it is I don't even know where you would start to be like, yeah, their defense isn't that good because of this. I don't know what this is in that conversation.
Me too. So we've seen where like a good defense alone with an offense that was dragging it down last year took Nebraska. Now, how would you describe the formula for Nebraska? They have a very, very good defense, as we've just spent 7 minutes discussing. But where is their offense in that equation? It at the very least, helps them. But then we wonder about the ceiling and what it could end up being. And theoretically, it gets better as it goes along because they have a freshman quarterback. Like, how does their offense play into the grand equation of Nebraska winning football games?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're built like an NFL team. Honestly, they're built like a turbocharged Big Ten West team in the sense that they're going to play through their defense. They have an offense, and right now a quarterback who, at the basis level, they feel like isn't going to put the ball in harm's way. And for the most part, he hasn't. Now, the upside of Dylan Raiola allows you to expand what the upside of that offense is. But right now, I mean, it feels like they're set up where they have a competent offense that can move the ball, can put you in position to get points or go get points, and then a defense that's going to minimize the amount of points that you need to win a game. The area that, if you're concerned about Nebraska's team overall, the area that you'd be most concerned about is the kicking game. Because if that offense isn't firing on all cylinders and stalls out routinely between the 15 and the 30 of the other team's side of the field, you want to get points there. And right now, you don't know if Nebraska can without having to go for it. So a long way to answer that question. I mean, I think they have an exceedingly competent offense. I'm trying to think of a good comparison to like a recent college football team, and I don't have anything popping up just yet. But
I got one for you.
They feel like they've minimized things a little bit as to ways that you can kind of expose them.
What do you think?
What do you got?
What do you think about? What do you think about 2019 Minnesota?
See, I like that one quite a bit because I think you look at that 2019 Minnesota offense. They were better as a passing team than what you think of.
They had great wide receivers.
You had Tyler Johnson, you had Rashad Bateman, you had Chris Ottman-Bell. They had another guy that was in there as well. And then on defense, what you had was Antoine Winfield Jr. was phenomenal on the back end. And then, what's his name? Carter Coughlin, I think.
Nice.
Was there. Was the linebacker, defensive end that was really good. And, I mean, they were good on all three levels. I'm good with that comparison. I mean, I think that that's fair. I don't know if 2024 Nebraska played 2019 Minnesota, I don't know what that spread looks like before the game.
Yeah, and that was a team that got off to a really nice start. They had some close games at first, but got off to a really, really hot start and ended up winning 11 games, that season. So I don't know. The formula kind of seems the same to me, Schaefer.
Well, and I think Nebraska's defense is better than that defense. And perhaps the upside of that Minnesota offense was a little bit better than what Nebraska did. But that's sort of what you're trying to put together here, where you're blending the high competency of one side with the other side that just doesn't give an inch. And so I think the formula is there. I mean, honestly, maybe it's as simple as Nebraska is 2019 Baylor, 2024 Nebraska is 2019 Baylor. With a little less quarterback run game in it, because that was a defense that carried a Baylor team all the way to the Big 12 championship game where they damn near won it.
Yeah, they were. That team ended up being pretty explosive on offense, if I remember.
Tyquan Thornton and some of those guys too, which Nebraska has that at receiver. But I think the difficult thing is, I don't know that we're going to get. We're not going to get 5 or 6 catches for Jalen Lloyd a week. So it's those sort of splash plays that just tipped off of his hands on Saturday night. If he makes that catch, that's where that's kind of the final vestige of Nebraska evolving from competent to scary on offense.
I was watching the first quarter last night. I think if they hit that ball to Lloyd, because remember I think it was the next play, they were going for Fedoni up by the pylon as well, and he got pass interference to Nebraska. That was the drive where they ended up missing the field goal. If they hit the ball to Lloyd, they might win 56-0. I don't know. Yeah. You wouldn't have stopped that train if they hit that ball to Lloyd.
Definitely a what if for that game. There's no question about
it. So I guess going for, well, actually, let me ask you about that game in particular. Second half, did you have any problem with the way they approached the second half from an offensive standpoint?
I mean, obviously, cleaner game and more points. I think the difficulty here is it's hard for us sometimes to give Colorado credit. And if you look at what they did to Nebraska in the second half and what they did to North Dakota State in the second half, this Colorado team might be better than the 2023 one that beat Nebraska pretty badly. I mean, the adjustments that they've made in each of the second halves of the last 2 weeks, Robert Livingston, their defense coordinator, I think has made some pretty strong adjustments when they've gotten to halftime. And they've really kind of slowed things down. Now, Nebraska was able to hit on a couple plays that got called back. We don't know what that would have looked like if the officiating had played out a little bit differently. But I think Nebraska had a tough time once Colorado just dialed up. I don't know that they knew what they wanted to do. They didn't want to go vertical in the passing game. That much seemed apparent. They didn't want to put Dylan Raiola in the way of getting, a bunch of unnecessary shots when you're trying to run play action and longer developing routes. So they did a lot of short passing, and they did a lot of, kind of just trying to run into that blitz, and it didn't work. And so, it operates in a lot of ways for Matt Rule as sort of the perfect game. You took care of business, but you also have this great learning opportunity. Why didn't it work in the second half? We can't allow that again. We don't ever want to allow teams to be able to feel like they can get back into games. We have the opportunity to put somebody away later in 2024. We got to call back on the Colorado game as to what we could do. So in a lot of ways, I mean, it's going to be a great coaching opportunity for that staff too.
Yeah, I think it's the dream scenario from the coaching perspective. That's for
Definitely.
Sure. Hey, Schaefer, recruiting obviously was a big story this weekend as well. What's the general vibe from the people that you've talked to from over the weekend about what they experienced on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, the general vibe is the atmosphere was incredible. I mean, you had local guys saying they'd never seen anything like that at Memorial Stadium. You have guys like Christian Jones calling it the best atmosphere that he's ever been in. You have top recruits, Jackson Cantwell, raving about his experience at Nebraska, and that was someone who's already been here several times, five-star offensive lineman. He's got connections to the state of Nebraska. His mom's originally from Crete. So you've got a lot of momentum on the trail. Now, how Nebraska turns that momentum into commitments ultimately is on the coaching staff. I think we're going to see them. We could see them pretty quickly too. And so, and far ranging, where you could see in the 2025 class, in the immediacy. And then, I wouldn't be shocked if there's some 2026s that want to get on the board too, based on what they saw. So how Nebraska follows up on it is going to be a big part of this conversation. But again, kind of like the way that game started, you couldn't ask for a better branding opportunity for what Matt Rule wants Nebraska football to be. I mean, you had multiple recruits get the opportunity to see Terrence Crawford on the sideline with his 2 titles. And then you have the 94 team there. You have this incredibly juiced up atmosphere. And if you're any kind of defensive player at all, how could you not love what Tony White and that staff is doing over there? I mean, it in a lot of ways, you used every aspect of Nebraska that someone who isn't familiar with this place would have no idea is here with somewhat regularity on a Saturday night in the fall. And then you combined it with the star power of a guy like Terrence Crawford, and you had Will Compton roaming around, and things that are connecting to youth players. And then you follow that up with a thoroughly dominating performance. I mean, it hit on every possible level. If you were trying to sketch out what you wanted Saturday to be as far as a recruiting event.
What about the headliners specifically? Merritt, Cortez Mills, Michael Terry, like anything on those guys?
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping to learn more. I know that we're going to hear from Michael Terry today. Cortez Mills, I'm not sure how much he's going to give away. Obviously, he's committed to Oklahoma, and it was kind of touch and go.
A bit dramatic.
Get in here.
Yeah,
I would say. Though I think some of that emanates specifically from the Oklahoma side of things, and how it tends to be covered with Oklahoma recruits that Nebraska is also after. But I don't know what we'll hear from Mills. I'm hoping to hear from Merritt today. I know we'll hear from Terry today. Christian Jones, like I said, I think Nebraska's more or less locked that one up. So we'll see kind of where things kind of play out if Oklahoma is able to stay in that recruitment or not. But it wouldn't surprise me if they landed, of those 4 guys, Christian Jones, Dawson Merritt, Michael Terry, and Cortez Mills. It wouldn't surprise me if Nebraska landed multiple. I don't think they're going to get shut out by any means. And I think 2 is almost the minimum of what I expect coming out of the weekend and what I've heard so far.
Vibes are good. Mike Schaefer of Husker 247. You can check out his stuff over there. Schaefer, always appreciate the time, and we'll get that cold cookie business started up shortly.
I like it. I like it. The chilled cookie.
See you later, Schaefer. The chilled cookie. What do you think?
I'm often made fun of in my house because I like a cold dessert.
I love cold dessert, Josh. I get made fun of all the time on this very radio station for saying such things.
People, we'll have a family dinner and we'll go, we got some pie. It just came out of the oven not too long ago.
Cool it off.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you got like a cheesecake, I want it to be almost frozen.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a cake and unfortunately it's not an ice cream cake, like I'd like it to be cold. Yep. I want it to be a little difficult to get that fork through there.